core message behind What's Up with My Tree?
Well, that's a workbook. Both of the books that
That's a
I've put
workbook.
out, yeah, both of the books that I've put out so far are for leaders specifically.
Mhm.
So that is a workbook that walks leaders through the prosperity formula, which is the primary tool in the JMac method. I have several tools, but that's the primary one. That's the anchor, so to speak. And so that walks you through it. Someone who is not a leader could still use it. They would just notice that the examples that I've written to illustrate each of the exercises is written for a leader, but it has all the steps. My first products that I created, I never took to market. I created them in the early 2000s, and they were called Godspeed. Not because they're religious, but because Godspeed as a word means wishing one well on a journey. And
Huh.
so, and that was made for the consumer. It was a very personal, and it was the prosperity formula, but it's in CD format. So I don't have it out on market. I just need to transform it myself to make it more market friendly. But there, I originally had a workbook that went with that and a working journal, a 3-disc CD set, and it was chock full of exercises, meditations, written exercises, journal entries. And so that was fashioned after it for a leader. What's up with my tree specifically means that the depiction that I have, I'm going to just kind of awkwardly show you the front of it.
Okay.
It shows a tree, and that tree is the image that I use in all of my tools because it is, for me, the epitome of the wiring.
Uh-huh. Yes.
And so when we don't know why we're creating these painful experiences that we are in our relationships, in our work, in our health, in our families, then the question becomes, what's up with my tree?
That's such a lovely title that you chose.
Thank you.
I would love to have that book.
Okay, well, I can send it to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So you say that when leaders shift, the whole organization follow after. What do you think the leaders are more, what kind of a change do you think the leaders are more resistant to?
So many leaders have been conditioned, just like we as individuals, right? What we've been talking to this point are common conditioned beliefs, right? Trying to please our loved ones and finding our worth in things like our work and working ourselves to death and just finding bad addiction cycles where we're chasing our sense of worth and pleasure. That happens in our personal life. It is no different for leaders. It's no different for leaders. And so a lot of the beliefs that they were conditioned on is to see employees as commodities.
Mm.
So that is the most expensive line item on my budget. And so at some point, it's always going to have to be cut. And so instead of understanding and taking the time to really think through the roles, have clarity on the roles, I see a lot of times so much of the chaos in cultures comes from lack of clarity. Because, if something new needs to happen or if there's big growth, it's like, oh, well, just throw money at it and hire people instead of understanding that you might want to strategically realign. And so then later you realize you're too heavy and you have to cut. And so it's just there's some inherent laziness in it. I
Mhm.
hate to say it that way, and I'm not accusing every leader of it, but these are some common things that occur. Sometimes top level leaders are submissive to their boards, and their boards are on a lot of times shareholders who are only interested in the bottom line because that's how they gain. So it's an interesting era that we're in now where with the advent of AI, with the advent of new generations that have been conditioned virtually in a world of COVID in their formative years, it's an interesting era now where you can't get away with doing that as much anymore. And so a lot of people buy into the idea that, well, we'll just replace everybody with AI. And then a lot of employees buy into the idea that they're going to be replaced by AI. And so they run scared. And so then they become submissive, and it's a vicious cycle. And so, a lot of that's going on. A lot of the younger ones are saying, hey, I'm willing to work as hard as you want me to, but I'm not going to do it if you're too lazy to set this up when there's so many innovations that we can use to be more efficient. So, no, I'm not going to work 30 hours of overtime just to please you. And you can't call me lazy for that. And so there's a mirror reflection between them. The leader's calling the employee lazy, and the employee's calling the leader lazy. And they're both, reflecting each other. And so there's just a lot of interesting things, but it's the same. These are the same principles, right? There are sabotaging beliefs, there's deep conditioning, there are external factors that they are submitting to, and then it just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, as does every relationship.
Yes. Do you believe in endurance?
I believe that with intentionality, yes. I think, yeah. You said endurance? Is that
Endurance. So,
yeah.
my following question would be, when do you think it would be the time to evolve versus endure?
Yes. So someone can intentionally get into an endurance race and see just how far they can push their bodies, right? But is it a good idea to set their entire lives up to do that? No. And so we all get warning signs. We all get warning signs, whether it starts with a headache or a body ache or, something in our bodies, or whether it starts with signs in our relationships. Maybe we're working long hours and we're neglecting our family. That's going to show up, right? That's why the key to everything's balance. But we tend to not like balance. We like to push, and we like to to see how far we can take things sometimes. Um and so there is no reason to think that life has to be hard to be worthwhile. The no pain, no gain kind of leads to this mentality,
Isn't that what they taught us? The
right?
diamond is gonna be formed under a lot of pressure. Character will be produced after a lot of sufferings. And like you said, no pain, no gain. So we are brought up by those
Yeah.
belief systems.
Yes.
And then we go and we try to prove that we can do things. We can do things. And there are also gurus out there that will push you towards greatness by making you just sprint
Yeah.
and not take a breath.
Yeah.
But
So
then,
a lot of times, um, experts, right, will tell you you have to do this, do this, do this, do this to death, do this to death to get the results.
yes,
They're perceiving the no pain, no gain as the hard physical work. Just keep showing up, long hours, do this, wear yourself into the ground. You'll get there, but it's going to be painful. Push through, push through. And I like to look at it as, I think that that's the power of your mind, not your body. Why push your body so hard when it is here to take care of you if you let it? And just push your mind beyond the confines of the walls you've created of your belief systems, right? And so that is a belief. If you want to adopt the belief that you have to work that hard in order to be that successful, go for it. And I hope you have good medical care in the process. Um, but you don't have to. You can understand that the pain is in your ego when you're pushing through beliefs and your entire system's lit up, and you feel grief and you feel anger and you feel rage and you feel like the world's falling. But you look around and you realize it's an illusion because it's your fear that is causing you pain, not your physical reality. And so the pain in the idea of no pain, no gain is in the restructuring and the reprogramming of your mind. And once you do that, you don't have to push your body so hard. It you just don't. But you do have to push your mind beyond the confines of those walls that you've built.
what is the first step to align your mind with your heart? The first baby step that you can take.
Get quiet and find out what's even in your heart because it's probably been buried so deeply you don't even know.
Oh,
I hate to sound cynical saying that, but
it doesn't sound cynical at all.
we tend to just stay up here with pleasure principle, give me the fun little thing to make me feel better, whether it's a fun cat or dog video or a Starbucks latte, but heaven forbid I go into my heart and find actual joy.
Whoa.
It's almost like it's not permissible.
It's yes.
And that's really sad because that's what life is all about.
Getting into your heart. That's the whole point
Yes.
of coming into this world to begin with.
Yes. Yes.
That's a journey. That's a journey of life, right? That's
Mm.
how, yes. What does resilience mean to you?
I always laugh and say, well, that's hard earned.
That's hard earned. Would you elaborate?
You develop resilience when you have enough hardship in life. Resilience to me, quite simply, I've been tagged as resilient most of my life, right? A lot of because we've touched on some high points of my life, but I've been on the other side of crimes and I've lived through a lot of things.
Yeah.
So people have often tagged me as resilient. And it humors me because that's why I say it's hard earned. It is the understanding, the adoption of the belief that you will make it through whatever you experience, right? That you'll make it through. And so when you don't collapse fully under the weight of pressure or stress in a certain phase of life, a season of life, a moment, you're developing resilience. And that is the ability to adapt, the ability to keep moving forward, the ability to understand the self-sufficiency inside of you, even when you have to ask for help. That the self-sufficiency may be just giving yourself permission to ask for help. Well, you have to do that. And so, um, resilience, that's to me what it is. It's just having the ability to allow yourself to believe and act as though you will absolutely make it through anything.
Thank you. One last question.
Sure.
What does your journey so far taught you about self-trust?
Oh gosh. That's an excellent question because self-trust from my journey has probably been the hardest thing.
How so?
Because when you have the self-awareness and quite honestly, the maturity to be the full owner of your life experience, and that's what I teach people to do. So I have always said, I will never ask a client to do something I have not done myself. That's a big thing for me. And so I'm always pushing myself in a way of like, you got to face this fear. You cannot cave under this fear. You've got to look at it and you've got to move through it. And oftentimes that requires me to make a decision. Well, having lived through multiple hardships, it a byproduct is not just resilience, but it is the fear of trusting your own judgment. Is what I decide going to lead me to another avalanche, hurricane, being run over by a bus? I'm saying all this obviously
Beautiful.
symbolically, but that's
Yes.
what it feels like.
Yes.
And so building that trust when you feel as though if I were the owner of those experiences, will I do that again? Because even if I don't choose the same thing, I still have to trust that I would choose well. Well, that's a trick because we're not always going to choose well. But what I have come to learn in having to move through the hard part of building trust with myself again, and it was so hard to do that. But I just know I've experienced, I've lived it, that even when we don't choose well, when we have transformed those beliefs and we have rid ourselves of the idea that we deserve what we get, that, you know, we've been riddled with the shame of being ourselves fully, those are the things that attract the hardship. Those are the reflection of the hardship is the shame that got trapped inside of us, the guilt that got trapped inside of us, the fear that got trapped inside of us. So the universe brought us that reflection and that hardship. So the self trust had to be built as I created the new wiring inside of myself, the new programming that absolutely knew that I had to do the heavy lifting of releasing the guilt and the shame and the remorse. I had to face each fear as it came. So when you actively do that and when you understand the importance of moving through your emotions and not getting trapped in them, it becomes easier to trust yourself again, knowing that the whole world's not going to fall apart, even if you make a bad decision, so to speak. You're going to make a decision that gives you more information. It may not give you the results you're looking for, and you can choose to call it a bad decision, or you can just be grateful for the result it did give you because you got more clarity. And what did I say? Clarity reigns king.
Clarity.
Yeah.
Clarity, self-acceptance, resilience, true power, alignment of the mind with the heart. I am very grateful, Jennifer. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's been
My
a great
pleasure.
pleasure.
Thank you very much.